Hey guys, Sam with Faster Freedom here. I am currently in $19 million worth of debt.
He needs some milk!
But the good news is it's good debt and not bad debt. Most people don't know the difference. We were taught growing up that debt is bad, all debt is bad, and that's simply not the case. If you want to create wealth and create financial freedom, you need to get into debt. That is the only way to realistically and quickly create wealth, by getting into good debt. So in this video, we're going to cover the things that you need to do and help you understand the difference in good debt and bad debt. Because if you go into bad debt, you'll go bankrupt, that won't be good. But if you go into good debt, you will learn to create wealth the way that every wealthy people do. All wealthy people and all companies honestly start out with debt. If the idea of going into debt to create wealth scares you or is the exact opposite of you were taught growing up, that's a good thing. This video is going to help. Let's head into the studio. Simply put, good debt goes up in value and produces cash flow. Bad debt goes down in value and does not produce cash flow. Let's sit down and dig in. But first, did you know that Apple is sitting on $200 billion of cash, yet they are still in debt of over $114 billion. So they have a lot of cash, but they're still in debt because they understand the value of leverage and the value of using other people's money. Hit the like button if you did not know that. So I grew up probably like most of you thinking that debt was bad. The goal was to get out of debt and don't owe any money on your car or your house and just live debt free. That's the American dream. Unfortunately, that dream does not include wealth. Being without debt is great, but it's not a way to create wealth. I kind of started to understand this a few years ago and started to leverage debt and use other people's money. And then I realized recently the actual power of it. I have bought over $20 million worth of real estate in the past 12 to 14 months without using any of my own money. I am truly just understanding the power of other people's money and the power of properly leveraging good debt. This is how the world works. I hate to break it to you, but this is how businesses start. This is how banking starts. Every truly wealthy person and wealthy company starts out with debt. If you understand the difference in good and bad debt, you will understand the secret to creating massive wealth quickly by using other people's money. So now let's go over some examples of good debt and bad debt. I got 3 examples of bad debt and 3 examples of good debt. The top 3 examples of bad debt are credit card debt, car loans, and personal mortgages. Let's talk about them and why they're bad debt and kind of one that can kind of toe the line a little bit. The first one is credit card debt. In the 1960s, credit cards became extremely popular and it was really cool. It was a new thing to come out. You get a card in the mail, you can buy something now, enjoy it now, and pay for it later. On the premise that's not necessarily a bad thing, but where it all went south was when people started buying things that they could not afford and could not pay for because the interest rates on credit card is an average of 16%. That's a lot of money you're paying if you're not paying that back right away. Credit card debt is fine and using credit cards is okay. I use credit cards to buy things, but I pay them off every single month. Americans are in $856 billion worth of credit card debt, and it's bad debt because it's not going up in value and it's not creating any substantial cash flow. So going into debt to buy something by using your credit card is not good debt, that's bad debt. Car loans is another example of bad debt. Cars in general do not go up in value. In fact, they lose 60% of value in their first 5 years after leaving the lot. Sure, there's examples of renting it on Turo, using it for Uber, but those are small examples. And classic cars go up in value a little bit, and with recent supply and demand issues, used cars aren't really going down that much in value. But in general, overall and throughout time, borrowing money to buy a car is not good debt. That car goes down in value over time and does not generally produce cash. That's the ABCs of investing. If you buy something and it goes down in value, especially that rapidly, it's not a good investment. Of course, any example I can give, you can dig in and find a little bitty thing here or there that makes it not true. The third and most common form of bad debt is personal mortgages. Everybody's got to live somewhere, and most people end up eventually owning a house in their lifetime, but that is bad debt. You may say, my house goes up in value, so it can be good debt. Number one, it does not produce cash. Of course, you can rent out rooms or do that or go down those little pigeonholes that I talked about earlier. But again, 99% of people do not make any cash flow from their house that they own. They have their mortgage, they have insurance, they have taxes, they have utilities. Your house is a cash sucker, not a cash producer. So just with that one fact that it doesn't produce any cash makes it bad debt. Now let's kind of dig into the other part of it, which makes it kind of wishy-washy, that it could be good debt because it goes up in value. And it's not a coincidence that in the last 60 years, the average inflation per year has been 3.7%. So your house is literally just riding the inflation wave. So yes, it's worth more. You bought it a few years ago for $250,000, and then now it's worth $350,000. You can sell it and you made a little bit of money on it. Everything in that time frame has gone up in value with inflation. So if you want to go buy another house that's similar to your current house, you're gonna have to pay $350,000, so you didn't really gain anything. You just didn't lose anything because you mirrored inflation. So now that you hopefully have an understanding of what bad debt is, let's talk about 3 examples of good debt and dive in so you can tell the difference. The 3 examples of good debt I'm gonna talk about are credit card debt, 3 for loop there, business debt, and rental debt. So you might be surprised at the fact that I put credit card debt on the bad debt side and the good debt side, but if you utilize that credit card debt properly, and like I'm gonna talk about, it can kind of be used as good debt. So if you're borrowing money on your credit card to pay for the end of a rehab or pay for some type of real estate investment, you're gonna be paying that 15-16% interest if you're not paying that back right away. But if you keep it short term, if you're borrowing for 3 months, $20,000 on your credit card and paying that 16% interest on it, but the key is keeping it short term and using it to invest in real estate. If you're using $20,000 on your credit card over the next 3 months to finish up a rehab, you're gonna be paying a decent amount of interest on that. But if you pay it back quickly with a refinance or a sale and it helped you get into real estate and buy a flip or buy a rental property, then that credit card can be a part of creating good debt. And if you do use your credit card to buy consumer goods but pay it off every single month, you do earn points and rewards, so you can make credit card debt not necessarily bad debt. It's not going to create wealth on its own, so I wouldn't really call it good debt, but you can make it not bad debt basically by just using it to get points with cash you'd use anyway. The second example of good debt would be going into debt to start or improve a business. Now, if you're going to borrow a bunch of money to start an unproven process like a seashell phone company or a shirt company or something along those lines, that's probably risky and probably not worth it in my opinion. But if you're in business and you've done well by using your own money or started a business, a lot of them don't require a ton of money at first, just require rolling up your sleeves and getting going, and you have a proven concept and a way to get to the next level is to borrow more money, then it can be incredible debt, the goodest of good debt, because you are creating more cash flow by creating that proven concept and improving on it, and it's also going up in value. Businesses are valued on the cash that they bring in. So if you borrow money and prove and expand on a concept that's already been proven, and that money you borrowed allows you to produce more cash, then naturally that business is gonna go up in value. I talked about Apple a little bit earlier. They had a proven concept, obviously, but they started out with debt. All these big businesses, Apple, Tesla, Google, Amazon, they all started out with debt. Sure, they had a proven concept. Sure, I think all of them pretty much were started in garages and they proved the concept there. But then once the concept was proven, they borrowed massive amounts of money, and still to this day, all borrow massive amounts of money because they understand leverage and they take a little bit of interest that they're using to borrow that money, and they're creating massive products and massive service and creating a ton of extra revenue and not over leveraging themselves because they have cash and they have other people's money. So they're playing the best of both worlds and they're in a very safe position. That's kind of how the business world works. Borrow money, double or triple down on a proven concept to create more cash flow for your business, and you'll create wealth. The third example, and my most favorite example, is going into debt to buy rental properties. It can be a single family, a multifamily. There's a lot of different ways to invest in real estate. But if you're investing by using debt to buy a real estate asset, that can be really good debt as long as you know what you're doing. You're making money 3 separate ways, and there's no other investment like this. The property goes up in value, the tenant pays the mortgage down, so those are working in opposite directions but in your favor, and you get cash flow. I call it the passive wealth trifecta. I think I made that up. If I sold that from somebody, I'm sorry, but you're making money 3 separate ways. And you get depreciation and write-offs, and there's tax benefits that go along with it. There's nothing better than borrowing money to buy real estate. Anybody that says cash is king, I'm sorry, but it's simply not. Let's talk about an example that kind of drives that home. Let's say you do have $100,000 of cash and you want to buy a rental house with that cash. So you buy that house in cash. If you're following most real estate rules, you're going to make about $10,000 a year on that investment positive cash flow. So you're getting 10% on your money. That's not bad, that's fine. However, if you take that $100,000 and put 20% down on 5 separate properties, you now have 5 properties that you own, and you're getting the positivity of 5 properties going up in value, 5 tenants paying the mortgage down, and 5 properties that cash flow. So it's just a way to leverage that cash and expand on it and grow. If you're wanting to buy one rental property and just make a little bit of money, maybe paying cash is the answer. But if you want to create wealth, you need to understand that you can leverage your current money, leverage other people's money, and get a lot of cash flow along the way. Saying all that, bad debt is not a horrible thing. I have bad debt. I just bought a brand new truck and I borrowed money at 2%. I'm not gonna find money at 2% anywhere else. That's like borrowing free money with just general inflation. I am building a new house that I'm moving into here in a few weeks, and I borrowed money to do that. So it's okay to use bad debt, but just know it's not a way to create wealth. I'm using that debt and I'm using my cash for other things. I'm enjoying life with the cash that I make, and I'm using other people's money for good debt and bad debt. As I said earlier, I am in $19 million worth of debt. However, that debt allows me to own $32 million worth of real estate. If I was not in $19 million worth of debt, I would not own $32 million worth of real estate. And if you were doing the math in your head there, and the difference between $32 million in value and $19 million worth of debt is $13 million worth of net worth, worth of equity, whatever you want to call it, I would not have that $13 million of equity if I was not in $19 million worth of debt. The fact that I'm managing the properties properly, I'm getting cash flow along the way, it is the only way that I know to create massive wealth quickly by going into good debt. See you on the next one.